a little defeat here.
So what do you think about not banning Scoia'tael? Is this a bit of like getting in Pumpkin's head, saying, I'm not even afraid of it. I know you play that really well, but I'm going to beat that just to show you. I want to make a name for myself right now. What kind of move is that?
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it plays out.
Definitely bold. That is definitely bold. So they're ready to rock and roll. We've got Amon, Amarth, and Sir Pumpkn ready to rock and roll. And without further ado, let's go see this one in action.
Let's kick it to the game.
All right, games are getting set up here. I think we saw a little bit of Skellige right there.
Yeah, there it was.
No decklist in front of us, so this is all going to be very.
Off the cuff.
It's going to be very fresh for us. So we're going to get to see what golds are drawn, what's going to be played here. As Pumpkn comes in with the Philavandrel pick.
Philavandrel, typically regarded as a almost purposeless leader in Scoia'tael. Typically, you see the other three, but Pumpkn has been playing it to great success recently, so I really hope to see some interesting stuff there.
Greatsword coming in from Amon Amarth. So we've seen a lot of Greatsword actually today as far as Skellige picks. We saw Bear Skellige from Heat, but Greatsword was represented both by Greyboxer and Always Turtle in the first feature match here, as Sir Pumpkin's going to lead off with the War Dancer, and it's playing like a nice Scorch variant. We see Shiru, we see some control elements in Panther, and of course Scorch as well. Philavandrel can be a grab bag. Leading off with the Yavin, this is good when you have so many ways to remove high power units.
Yeah, this is going to be hard control versus Greatswords. This is actually going to be a pretty interesting matchup. It's all going to be coming down to how well Sir Pumpkn can preserve his Scorches and how well Amon can preserve his Reses. Most notably, the Millennia in Pumpkin's hand could actually preserve a real threat if Pumpkn can power down an engine and steal it.
I think that's probably what he's able to do, and we also see the Uma draws. So Pumpkn came into this tournament with some real. This is going to be great because we can't call anything. We're knowing there's going to be so many create effects coming out here. So we don't know what the Elven Mercenary is pulling, but it looks like it's going to be a reconnaissance. He's going to get things started here, probably just develop a little bit of early round power so he can start controlling from there with the Panthers, maybe a Scorch. Not really sure what the ADC, Elzer's Double Cross, is going to be pulling, and Uma is going to be the wild card for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're going to be seeing the two Panthers in Pumpkin's hand, and if this Greatsword comes down from Amon on the next turn to the Longship, the Panther can smash it. If Amon is playing around Panthers, it means he wants to keep 4 units on a row. Let's see if he plays into that.
Here we have the deck list in front of us now. Get the Elven Scout to get a bowman out, which is a good way just to kind of keep things under control. And there's that Panther smash you were talking about.
Immediately coming down, just cleaning up that Greatsword. And that's one res Amon already has to do. Again, with Sir Pumpkn having these 2 Scorches in hand, plus potentially even a third one from Philavandrel, Amon really needs to preserve his reses for already grown ships. If these Panthers keep coming down, Pumpkn will be in a dominant position. But Amon has the Olgierd, so he is ready to lose this round and have that kind of
barbecue season. The weather's warming up. We're starting up the barbecues now. Is a huge Scorch, and that's just one of the many that Pumpkn is running in this deck. So that puts Amon in a real tough position, being down on the coin here. What's he able to do? It's going to go for like a big power swing.
Is going to give off a ping because it itself is a moved unit by the muzzle, but after that Scorch, that is hard to come back from. Now, Amon still does have the ability to keep playing. He is still able to stay ahead of Pumpkn, and if he passes, he still has that Olgierd. Pumpkn is down 1 Scorch, but that was really, really devastating to come out so early.
Definitely keeps things nice and close here. Pumpkn in the advantageous position here with Yavin being able to return, kind of bring the coin flip back on Sir Pumpkin's side here. The Alzer's Double Cross, I believe, is looking at the Archer, since Yavin has already been played. I think that, and Milena is in hand. I think the Dolblethana Archer is the only other unit that's high enough for the ADC, so that could just be used for a strict value play.
Yep, that's absolutely right. So Amon does have the options to set up an engine, but it's going to actually be kind of up to Pumpkn how long this round's going to go out. He's going to go ahead and recon out a Panther, the 3rd Panther, and that's going to smash down that Bowman, just preventing it from finding any more value ever.
Yeah, these engines aren't really going to get off the ground for Amon Amarth, which is really going to hurt his round 3. So it's just looking better and better for Pumpkn as this is progressing. Pumpkn being able to really showcase a nice style. Joe and I were talking about how Alchemy is one of the most premier control decks in the meta right now, but Pumpkn is making this look good with the Panthers. You know, a card that really a lot of people weren't too thrilled about when they first saw it. Just recently kind of showing up on the ladder lately.
Yeah, I gotta say, McBurder, this is a dream matchup for the Panther. You have so many target. These Greatswords comes down at 7, and when you can force their reses out early, you can clean them up in the late game with your Scorches, and they have no answer to that.
The Panther is something you can play around, but Amon Amarth hasn't really been able to do that. You can stack your row a little bit before you start the engine, but you know that does slow things down in the first place, and Pumpkn is happy to make sure that the engine stays slow, just ultimately.
Yep. But the most important thing here is that even if Amon does go down in this game, he will still have a great chance to win, of course, because Pumpkn, widely regarded as a very powerful Scoia'tael player, will have to develop his other decks and win with other decks to be able to clean up this round.
Yeah, it's really great to see, you know, players that are known for playing on the ladder for very specific things. There's another player in the tournament as well, Gulax, who has over 3,000 Skellige wins, but we're going to get to see if he is able to excel in a tournament scene where you have to play a little bit more than that.
And these Panthers are just providing Pumpkn absolutely insane value, just cleaning up Amon's entire win condition. We see the restore off the Runestone. This is going to do a great job of pulling back the Greatsword, but of course it can't strengthen it since it's already at 8. So it's definitely not a bad grab, just 3 points shy of a Sig Driffa, but at the same time, this Greatsword is something that Pumpkn has answers to. Philavandrel could actually pull a couple of things that cleans this up, notably some targets off of Runestone.
Yeah, I mean, you could just get an Alzur's Thunder perhaps as well.
Philavandrel pulls a silver.
Silver, my apologies.
Silver
yes,
special.
yes. It is an underplayed and underrepresented leader for sure. Yeah, so I would think I was getting mixed up with True Form.
Yes.
Guara. So in this situation, Pumpkn doesn't actually have a bad pass here either. I mean, you obviously want to take the round. You don't want to give too much control to the Greatsword player because their round 3 is where they can really shine. But being able to deny the engine all the way down to 5 and 4 cards, knowing that an engine is ticking and the chance to remove it is a little, you know, RNG. You could pass here. It looks like he's just going to go ahead and play Malena with the Cheruvial bluff, perhaps.
Yeah, possibly. We'll have to see how this plays out. It's going to be hard to align this Malena with the Greatsword ticking because, of course, the Greatsword will heal right before Malena goes off. So Pumpkn, by playing it that turn, has kind of no line to generate value from it. We'll have to see what he's up to with this Malena timing. There's the Wild Boar, which is Amon committing to the round. That's a very large commitment. Now, Pumpkn could pass as a bluff, and it is up to Amon, if that happens, to predict that pass, predict that it's either a Malena or a Sappers, and we'll have to see if he goes for that.
I think if Pumpkn wanted to bluff, he may want to pass a little bit faster than that. We're going to get to see Uma. We can't see his screen, so we don't know what his choices are, but I imagine that, well, I mean, we're just going to have to see. Pumpkn doesn't barely raise an eyebrow here.
Anything being pulled from this here.
Is it something that can deal with the Greatsword? Is it a ping of some kind? Is it like a Vernon Roach, perhaps? Yorveth, maybe? There are a lot of options to pull. It's going to be Isengrim Outlaw
choice
into
Hattori. And he's going to be able to res the Elven Scout, chaining even harder. There's the Dwarven Mercenary, and the Aelurn comes out on top of all of that. Huge Uma chain by Pumpkn there.
Massive tempo there. Malena hasn't flipped yet. It was interesting. I was wondering if we're going to see the, as we colloquially refer to it as the bamboozle on the bluff there, but that is not what happened here. The Greatsword.
Malena is flipping, and it's only going to be able to steal the 2 strength Battle Maiden. That's a bit of a kind of low swing for Pumpkn there, but he still has the opportunity to pass at any time. Amon is ready, however, to go 2 cards down. He's saying, you know, I have this win condition developed, and I am fully prepared to go 2 cards down. It is up to Pumpkn whether he wants to let that happen or whether he wants to keep putting pressure here.
Pumpkin's going to pass and take that card up. Nice deep round 1 here to get started here with the first round 2 match for the 6-round Swiss. Our good friend Sir Pumpkn taking on Amon Amarth.
Yep.
Both from New York.
Amon has to burn the Coral here, but he doesn't mind that so much because this is, as he well knows, a matchup where the Coral isn't going to find amazing value. There's the Greatswords, 2 12-strength Greatswords that Amon has access to later, but Pumpkn has the Shiro for round 3 counter. This is definitely Pumpkin's game to potentially lose, although Amon is going to have to pull out some pretty crazy calls if he wants to swing this back in his favor.
I mean, those are some pretty decent draws for Amon. He's probably going to have to go...
Villain Trettenmirth.
Oh, God, Villain Trettenmirth. As if the Scorches weren't already enough. The potential for a future Scorch from Philavandrel, plus Shiro, Villain Trettenmirth as well. And he's going to go for the push. He's always getting, of course, the spy out.
Now, this spy represents a really amazing opportunity for Amon, because when you are paired against a Scorch deck, your best option, especially when you're in Amon's position right now, is to play for kind of blocking their Scorch with the spy as well. If he was playing around Villain Treadmirth, that could involve like playing it after the Villain Treadmirth, or potentially pushing this around deep and not really developing Pumpkn another Scorch target.
Pumpkn taking a look at the graveyard, I do believe, and now Amon showing us that graveyard. I mean, I think that like the amount of plays, like this could be a bleed roll here. If Amon is perhaps anticipating Villain Treadmirth, you can put Sir Pumpkn in a position where he has to play it, or at least deny it in round 3 if it goes down far enough. But Amon being down on cards, very risky play.
So here's the other Isengrim Outlaw into Kiaran, locking the Olgierd right off the bat, and it's up to Amon how long he wants to play this out. Again, he has the Ulrich, which is completely blocking Villain Treadmirth. It's completely blocking Shiryu, but at the same time, he is one card down, and as soon as he plays a Freya into a Greatsword and buffs it at all, he loses that block. He'll take the pass, and we go to a round 3 Pumpkn 1 card up.
Oh man, Pumpkin's got so much potential to just burn down Amon. It's really tough because, you know, big units are what Amon round 3 looks like, with resing the greatswords that are just going to grow, the longship which is going to grow as well, and the Corsair which is just going to pull another longship out of the graveyard. Pumpkin's just going to have everything cut out for him to just burn it all down.
And there's the Elven Word Answer on top of all that. Pumpkn in a hugely dominant position here. I don't know if Amon has the cards necessary to be able to swing this round back in his favor.
Like, how many cards has Amon going to play into the board that just basically don't exist?
2 Greatswords both getting scorched out of 12s, and we'll have to see if there's a third one getting killed off by the Philavandrel, because that's still a bit of a wild card at this point.
Speaking of wild cards, Doppler coming down. So many cards that we don't even know what the choices are on Sir Pumpkin's side. Lots of create mechanics being used here by Pumpkn.
You can see Pumpkin's face. He's not super happy with that Doppler, but there's the Scout into Marauder, rolling his eyes a little bit, but it's going to take a lot more than that to cause Pumpkn to lose this scenario.
Create's so nice. He did it twice there with the Doppler into the Elven Scout, into the Marauder. As the game looks a little close now, but it's going to start burning down very quickly, especially if that if the Greatsword and the ship at any point align, or if either of the Greatswords align.
Yeah, Pumpkn has pretty much complete control over the scenario. It's going to come down to when the Villain Treadmirth and when the Shiryu are played, but because Pumpkn has such low strength units, he built this deck around the ability to Scorch so many times, he won't really have to worry about his own units blocking a Scorch. Here's the Villain Vandrel. We'll have to see what this shows. This is effectively the last major unknown factor in both players' hands.
Pumpkn looking a little bit happier about this, a little smile on his face. If only we could see it.
Oh, God. I mean, it really comes down a bit to imagination. I suspect he's seeing Becker's Twisted Mirror and thinking about, there it is!
There it is.
The Becker's Twisted Mirror hitting the RNG on the Elven Scout and smashing that ship down. But this is potentially going to block his own Scorch. We'll have to see how this plays out.
It's true. I mean, the Greatsword is ultimately the res. I mean, Amon can maybe play a little low here, try to keep things under 11, but with growing units like the Longship, it's only a matter of time. Villain Treadmirth coming out here. So Amon, I don't think he can stop it at this point. The ship will outpace the Elven Scout.
The ship, there's nothing he can do about that.
He's just going to try to generate as many points as possible. He is going to go tall here and grab the Greatsword.
And you have to, and the look on Amon's face, I want you to look very closely, McBeard. When this Shiryu gets played this turn or next turn, just the look on that face when you see the third Scorch for the game as Greatswords is just going to be pretty devastating. That is a nightmare matchup to come back from.
It's true. Now does Pumpkn go ahead and just Scorch his own 11 to get 2 11s on Amon's side? There is that lineup that I was talking about.
Oh,
he is going to go for it.
Oh, and that just hurts to see. Amon has the Sigdrifa, choosing to take the pass.
Just going to give it up
down.
there.
But again, it's going to come down to Pumpkn taking a win with another deck. He still needs one more win, and we'll have to see exactly what he switches to now that his Squirtle is effectively out of the running.
Sir Pumpkin's going to take this first of the round 2 here, going up 1-0 against Amon Amarth. Match point now for Pumpkn. These are best of 3 series.
Yes.
As we're going to see now, Pumpkn going out of his comfort zone, and Amon Amarth maybe giving another shot to that Skellige deck. He does have some other options as well. He has brought Dagon, as well as Usurper Alchemy, which is very interesting. One of those was banned, and I assume I assume it was Dagon that was banned, but we only are assuming at this point
Yes,
because we're not really sure.
I believe that's right. And here is the Dagon actually being played by Pumpkn. Amon, Amarth playing the crack deck. Again, this is the same deck. What do you think about this matchup, McBeard?
Well, let's take a look at Pumpkin's Dagon list. It is a Death Wish list, so it is running. It is a non-Nova list. So
Yes,
Joe Snow knows a little bit about this. He is a huge fan of the non-Nova list, but it is running Brewis Ritual, Muzzle, Caretaker, and Wispus Tribute. It is running the Weathermaker, Vadermaker, of course, Aeromancer, and it is and Dagon himself to secure the Foglets, but then the triple Griffin and the triple Archospore, triple Dow combo for huge tempo plays. I do like the Dagon list, and I do like the control options of Muzzle, as well as running the Mandrake will help for the growing strength and units of the Greatsword, but ultimately not quite the level of control that Pumpkn was able to flex with his full advantage.
Especially because both players have Muzzle, so Pumpkin's Muzzle is going to get countered effectively. I think this round one, and yet this entire matchup, is going to largely bank on the Caretaker here. When you're Amon as Skellige, you want to push round one hard and try to go for a 2-round to deny the real Caretaker value, whereas if you're Pumpkn, you're sitting on that Caretaker, you want to win a long round one. Specifically, it has to be long because you have to have first play in round 2, and you need to Caretaker something big. So that's what Pumpkin's going to be wanting to play for here in this round 1.
Yeah, and we saw that in the first feature match with Always Turtle taking on Greyboxer, how Always Turtle was ultimately able to punish Greyboxer with the Caretaker, and how he was able to just, without having that first action and immediately securing those high value units.
Here's the Muzzle swing.
When he's using the Muzzle on Archospore here, now this denies Brewis future. It is also now means that Sir Pumpkn can muzzle without any worry of getting, if the Greatsword gets muzzled, won't be able to get that back in any case here.
Absolutely. Pumpkn had the opportunity to muzzle the Archospore, but says, no, I'm just going to save it for your Greatsword instead. Here's the Grimace. He has the opportunity to play for clear. The Fog goes bye-bye. Olgierd gets healed back up, and the round pushes deeper. It's very similar to, like you were saying, Always Turtle games, but the biggest difference between that set and this one is that Always Turtle was able to force out round 1 with the Caretaker because she had the Igni. And Pumpkin's going to have to pull out some serious value here if he wants to force Amon out of this round.
It's interesting as Amon now plays the Spy to turn the flip around here. It's interesting that both players are running Mandrake and both players are running Muzzle. Now, Amon does have access to that Mandrake right now, whereas Sir Pumpkn doesn't. So, just to block off the way that what Brewis is able to source and what Griffin is able to do, something like the Dow could get vaporized. We already had the Archospore taken, so Brewis becomes a little bit more of a liability if there aren't units for it to res, for her to res in round 3, and Amon is able to put a little bit of control on that. Sir Pumpkn is able to apply that Fog again. The clear isn't so devastating in this situation because you want to thin out the Foglets. You do get a lot of value from the Fog simply being applied.
Exactly.
Let me see if Amon wants to do it, and he is going to go for that vaporizing
and
of
that
the
is
Dow.
Devastating. I mean, Pumpkin's hand is very, very hurt by that play. Love that from Amon as well, and the Udalryk in the previous turn developed his graveyard. There's the Muzzle. He's not saving it for the Greatsword. It's coming out now, taking the Olgierd, a great play, and it allows Pumpkn to feel very comfortable losing the round, but we'll have to see if he gets punished by not having that Greatsword answer later.
It's interesting because Amon actually does not have any access to Greatswords at this point.
He discarded one with Udalryk, so he enabled his Freya for it.
Yes, he did. I did miss that. So he does have that access, I suppose, which is good because it kind of makes Freya's playable in round 1. Here comes the Spy counter Spy action here, moving the Longship.
And it should be the Freya for the Greatsword here. Typically, he's going to go for the Heim instead. He's got a few good grabs here. He doesn't have the Curse, so he's going Wimpus.
For the opponent's deck. Very interesting decision here. Nothing in the graveyard for Ozreal.
It looks like it's just going to be Vadermaker for either a Weather or a Zap, declining to play it on the right of the Longship. So perhaps he's afraid of the Longship lining up for the Igni there.
It's true. I mean, there is always the worry that Igni is going to get you in the tournament, and especially, there's a lot of wild cards. There's a lot of variance in a tournament like this. This is an open tournament. Pumpkn is known for playing some things that you might not expect. Igni in this list is, there is a flex spot right now. Caretaker is kind of holding that spot. I feel like as far as the gold lineup, you can put other things in that spot like Woodland Spirit or perhaps something else that maybe is your fancy. But of course, Graveyard Hate, especially in the Skellige matchup, is probably a great thing that you want here as we see the pass go out. Amon Amarth is going to take the round. a card down and now is in the driver's seat here.
And we are absolutely eyeing that Caretaker because that is the name of the game when you're playing against Greatswords. Amon, typically as the Greatsword player, will push this round 2, take it to a short round 3. If he does this without forcing out Pumpkin's Caretaker, then he is in a bit of a pickle because that Caretaker will be going to Pumpkin's first play because he'll be on the play in round 3, and Amon will have to force it out this round. He absolutely has to.
And Amon is incentivized to play into this round, not just because Sir Pumpkin was able to steal that Olgierd and have that the points on to prevent a dry pass, but also he wasn't really able to establish his engines with the Greatsword, so he kind of wants to do that to get a little bit of extra value out of the Greatsword so he has something to res. But again, the name of the game is Caretaker, and Pumpkin will be acting first in round 3. So ultimately, that really could disrupt Amon Amarth. Pumpkin is also able to perhaps develop some more Death Wish units for Brewis to res, as currently he has none. I believe that the Dow was deleted with the Mandrake, and the Arcus Spore was stolen with Muzzle. He does have Mail Lauren, which will be able to source either a Dow or an Arcus Spore, but that is ultimately it, I believe. So Brewis is not looking so great in round 3.
Amon's techs are single-handedly doing so much for him this game. I love the Muzzle and the Mandrake, almost punishing Pumpkin for taking the Olgierd. The Olgierd was a fantastic take in most situations, but being denied his own graveyard is so powerful here. It's going to be up to Pumpkin to stay ahead every turn, but it's going to be ultimately up to Amon exactly how long this round is going to be going. He has the ability to put on as much pressure as he wants after winning round 1.
There's a lot of cool factors in this matchup as well, as the Greatsword can just absorb those pings from the Arcus Spore and just basically kind of remove that value altogether. In addition, while Amon Amarth's list is not running anything like a Berserker Marauder, in some Skellige matchups, the Arcus Spore actually does work for the Berserker Marauder, but that's not the case in this situation. As Sir Pumpkin is just looking to start getting value from these Griffins, playing them for the ping here, which also could get absorbed by the Greatsword. So, there's some situations where Pumpkin loses a lot of value.
And that Griffin hitting the Longbow will put it at 7 strength in the range of something like a Cyclop Arcus Spore. This opens up options for Pumpkin. He has the Algol as well, and he can only get one proactive play, either Algol or Caretaker in round 3.
Yeah.
So you can burn either one of them here, and it will be fine holding onto one of them for round 3.
Pumpkin showing off why the Cyclops is such a great control option. 11-point cards that remove all sorts of things depending on the board state. And the Griffin being there at 9 was perfect for the longboat, the longship here. As now still 2 longships are developed for Amon Amarth. That Greatsword is growing over time. Do you think Amon Amarth might be in a position to... I don't know, how much deeper he wants to go.
Amon is in a very difficult position because, as said, as Greatsword, you have to push round 2, and if you can't force out both the Caretaker and Algol, because the Algol got top deck, if you can't force out both of those, you often lose the game because Pumpkin gets the play in round 3, gets the first initiative, and he can just res or eat it in the case of Algol, steal it right from under you, and Amon doesn't have the hand to force out both of those options, maybe even neither.
Yeah.
So it looks like Pumpkin is extremely favored here once again.
Yeah, Pumpkin is in a position that we have seen a lot of the players in so far, being up 2 cards, trying to get bled, but not really ultimately in a position where, well, at least he has to win this round, unlike the previous matchup where we saw 2 cards up plus driver's seat for the player in the card advantage position, which is so... Definitely, it's a game-to-lose position where you are in such a commanding role. But Pumpkin is now basically just thinking about what he wants to throw down here. You have to put his opponent on a specific thing here, but those 2 Freyas, you're going to have limited application, especially knowing the Caretaker is easily not going to get bled out here.
Yeah, that's absolutely right. At the same time, though, Amon has denied a good amount of Pumpkin's value. The Brewis Ritual is
dead.
It's completely dead in this case. It has not a single res target, unless, of course, he does that, enables a single res target with that little Archer Spore there. And he will be able to, possibly, if he's a little lucky, oh, that's a little unfortunate for him.
I mean, this is good because now Brewis becomes kind of a low commitment play because the Brewis is not going to get the kind of value that you'd expect, getting a Dow and an Arcus Spore or a double Arcus Spore in some situations. At least now he can play Brewis knowing that in round 3 it wasn't going to be great in the first place. The game's close enough. Amon Amarth has one last card to see, and Osrel is likely going to be able to make up the difference, which means that Caretaker can be saved for the ultimate kind of slam the door play in round 3.
Yeah, and look at Pumpkin's hand. That is just what you want to see if you are in Pumpkin's position. The beautiful pass coming out from Amon. We're going to see Pumpkin playing out one of these tools, but it's going to be up to him which one of them he wants to preserve and play immediately into that round 3, and that will devastate Amon's value.
Yeah, and the Caretaker is going to be that pick because he's going to be able to grab that huge Greatsword. I believe growing into 15.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah.
And the pick in this case is a little bit safer if you're playing around something that destroys a big unit, like something like a Scorch or something like a Igni as well.
Tough position here for Amon. Match point for Pumpkn.
Yeah.
We may see this round come to a close shortly.
And if you're Amon here, you are thinking, does he have Caretaker? That is the single thought going through your mind, and he is about to get confirmation. Pumpkn slamming down that Caretaker. Here's the big greatsword coming out. We see Amon having the Coral, and the Coral will force that completely out of value. This is going to be very close.
This is going to be close. Here we have a Griffin with no target. It's just going to be 9 more points. And is the Freya able to make it up? No other greatsword's got a chance to grow, so Amon...
It's just the 10.
Just got the
it
10.
plays for 11.
Ooh,
it's
so
1
close.
point short. Oh, man. And Pumpkn
So
is going
close.
to take the set 2-0, winning by
2-0
1 point.
Such a close matchup. When I saw that Coral draw, I thought, I got to remind
And the
myself what's
Griffin.
in the graveyard there. Yeah, but the Griffin, just enough to do it there.
And Amon almost actually winning that second game with the Tex alone. I say the Mandrake and the Muzzle alone just denying so much of Pumpkin's value. That was an incredibly close game, especially for an unfavored matchup like that.
Absolutely. Both veteran players here, you can see their levels. They're pretty high up there. You know, it gets pretty tough to get those levels once you get past